Shalom, Israel, Most High in Christ bless. I'm Officer Matthew out of New Orleans, and to my right I have
Officer Zadiah.
And today we're going to do a class entitled Gold Tried in the Fire. All right, gold tried in the fire. Oftentimes we read the scriptures and we see, the Most High compares us, gold tried in the fire. Men comparable as fine gold. How has the gold become dim? Like all of these different analogies and comparisons to gold. Why is that? So we're going to dive into that a little bit and find out how gold is actually made. For us to be compared to gold, we would have to see how gold is made to see how and why the Most High compares us to that. Give me Romans chapter 15, verse 4. The first thing that we're going to have to understand today is that when the Most High compares you to something, it's for a reason. It's not just a blind comparison or anything like that. There are reasons behind what he does, all right, and what the word actually says. Read that.
The book of Romans, chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we, through patience and comforts of the scriptures, might have hope.
So the things that was written aforetime was written for us to learn from, all right? It was written for us to learn from. So we're going to go through a video, a very short video that this class is actually based on, to show how gold is made and the spiritual aspect behind it. All right, so go ahead and play the video.
Gold is one of the softest and most malleable of the metals. It can be pressed extremely thin, crafted into shapes, even drawn out to form a fine wire, and all without breaking.
Stop. So it said gold is one of the most malleable metals that there is. It can be pressed down. It can be made into a very fine wire, all without breaking. That's us as Israel. Look at how we've been pressed throughout all of these different captivities. We often look at life trials and say, shoot, if that was any other race of people, they would have killed themselves or they wouldn't have made it. If that was any other person besides a black man, they wouldn't have got out of that situation with their minds still intact. Why? Because we always go through things and don't break. Give me Sirach 2 and 5. Sirach chapter 2, verse 5. Remember, it said gold is one of the softest, malleable metals that's on the planet. It can be pressed very thin. It can be made into a fine wire, and it does all of this without breaking. You can't break gold. Read that.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 2, verse 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity.
So gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. That's that comparison. That's what we've been going through. Give me Baruch 4 and 6. That's what we are. We are that gold tried in the fire. Why? Because we have to go through adversity. As Israel, we have to go through adversity in order to be that gold that he compared us to. Read.
The book of Baruch, chapter 4, verse 6. Ye were sold to the nations, not for your destruction.
So when we were sold to the nation, we wasn't sold for our destruction. We were supposed to be pressed down and stretched thin, all to not break. He did all of that not to break us, but why?
But because ye moved God to wrath, ye were delivered unto the enemies.
So because we moved God to wrath, he had to put us through some fire. Oftentimes we feel the results of that fire and that heat from those captivities now in the present day because of what we go through as a people. But remember, pressed down, bound and made into a fine wire, all without breaking. Go to Daniel 9 and 12. Daniel 9 and 12. And this video, I like it because it shows exactly what we go through as the gold that we were supposed to be made as. Read.
Daniel chapter 9, verse 12. And he hath confirmed his words, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven hath not been done as hath been done upon Jerusalem.
Because under the whole heaven, no other metal can do and go through what gold can go through. Just like under the whole heaven, no other people can go through what Israel has gone through. They would not make it because they're not the metal or the gold that God called them to be. We are. That's why we can go through all of these atrocities and guess what? Still come out on top. Want to know why? 1 Corinthians 10:13. This is why. This is why we can go through the things that gold had to go through as the acceptable men, because that's what we was made for. Read.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13. There hath no temptation taken you but such as is common to man.
So no temptation has taken us but such as is common unto men. Everybody goes through the same temptations, from the lust to the anger to the patience. Everybody goes through the same temptations. Read.
But God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted above that ye are able.
That's why, as being compared to gold, we're not going to go through more than we can take. And we can take a lot. Some of us don't know it, but God knows it. God knows how much we can take. All right, play on in the video.
Even drawn out to form a fine wire, and all without breaking. Gold isn't affected by water or oxygen, as many metals are, so it doesn't rust or tarnish either.
Stop. So it said gold is not affected by wind or oxygen or water like other metals, and it doesn't rust like other metals. Same thing with us. Being compared to fine gold, we cannot be affected by water and oxygen. Let me show you what that water and oxygen is. Give me Jeremiah 31:35. Jeremiah 31:35. We're going to see it said gold is not affected by oxygen and water. Read.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 31, verse 35. Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinance of the moon and of the stars for a light by night, which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar.
Read.
The Lord of hosts is his name. And those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord. Then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever.
So if the sun and the moon disappear, then we disappear. That's the only way that Israel gets out of here. If the elements leave, that's the only way we leave. Read on.
Verse 37. Thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured, and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done.
So we're not affected by all of that stuff. We're not affected by anything. Why? Because the sun, the moon, and the stars are here for us. They're here because of who we are. Go to Revelations 12:15 to further prove that we're not affected by water and oxygen or wind. Read.
Book of Revelation, chapter 12, verse 15. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood.
Who's the serpent? The serpent is that same spirit that deceived Eve in the garden, which we all know Esau is that serpent. Read.
That he might cause her to be carried away of the flood.
So the serpent cast out water out of his mouth like a flood and caused us to be carried away by that. But that's not Israel. That's not the gold that we supposed to be. Now, the other elements, yeah, they may get carried away from the flood. Go to Ephesians 4:14. They may be carried away from the flood. You want to know why? Because they not gold. Any of you brothers and sisters out there that's tossed to and fro with all of these different waters that's out of here, all of these different floods that's coming at y'all, you better rethink who and what you are. Ephesians 4:14.
The book of Ephesians chapter 4, verse 14, that we henceforth be no more children, tossed to and fro, and carried about with every wind of doctrine.
Every what of doctrine?
Every wind of doctrine.
So we know the water is doctrines. We know that the wind is doctrines. But gold is not affected by oxygen or water. It doesn't rust. If you start to see yourself rusting, you may not be gold. Or if you think that you rusted, you better reevaluate yourself. Because gold is not only tried in the fire, but it's also tried by that wind and that water. Play on in the video.
Oxygen, as many metals are, so it doesn't rust or tarnish either. Most gold comes from lode deposits, also called vein deposits, concentrations of gold and other metals in the cracks of rocks. Lode deposits require hard rock mining, the process of removing gold-bearing rock called ore by drilling and blasting.
Stop. So you have to go into the earth in order to find gold. You have to go there to see it. And it says that there's certain veins in the earth that the gold is in. So gold is not everywhere in the ground. You have to know where it is. You have to know where that gold is in order to find it. And how do you find it? By drilling and blasting. Go to John 15 and 19. John 15 and 19. Look at what the Bible say. Because see, the purpose of this video is to show how gold is made. And it's going from start to finish. Just like us, from start to finish, we got to see, coming into this truth, exactly what we up against and why we're compared to fine gold. Read that.
The book of St. John, chapter 15, verse 19. If ye were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hath hated you.
Christ chose us out of the world. He went into all of the rock, throughout all of these different woods and stones and metals, and got us. That's the same exact thing that you have to do with gold. You got to know where to find it. Christ got to know where we are. We are his. The Most High gave us to him. That's why he's the bridegroom. Go to Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 6. Read.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 6. For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son of whom he receiveth.
So when we become that gold, or we are the gold, but when he starts to look for us, guess what? He said, by drilling and blasting, that's how they find the gold. Guess what? That blasting, because you know, leadership always say, I'm about to blast you. Guess what? That's correction. That's correction. Drilling and blasting. That's that discipline and correction that you get when you first come in here. No, you can't do this. No, you can't do that. This is what you have to do. It's a very fine line that you have to do, that you have to walk. And guess what? Only gold is going to get that, because gold is trapped in rock with a bunch of other elements. And by drilling and blasting, do you get it? Read on.
If ye endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not?
So everything that we have to go through is because God is our Father and we are his sons and daughters. Without it, guess what? We would still be stuck in a rock. Now, I say between a rock and a hard place, that's what we would be. We would be between a rock and a hard place right now. But we needed that drilling and that blasting and that correction and that chastisement to get us out of that rock. Play on in the video.
Bearing rock called ore by drilling and blasting. Miners descend more than half a kilometre underground. There they drill holes for explosives using what's called a long hole air drill. They drill in a specific pattern, set out in a plan prepared by the mine's engineers. The engineers know exactly where those veins of gold are, thanks to the mining company's geologists who studied the ore.
He said, the engineers know exactly where those veins of gold are. Give me Sirach 17:21. They said the engineers, they drill for these veins of gold in the rock, and they know exactly where it is because of the geologists. How would they know exactly where the gold is? Well, you know, Esau got his ways. That's why the Most High knows exactly where his gold is. He knows exactly where to go. Read that.
The book of Sirach, chapter 17, verse 21. But the Lord, being gracious and knowing his workmanship, neither left nor forsook them, but spared them.
So knowing his workmanship, he didn't forsake us. He didn't cast us off. He didn't do away with us, but he spared us by pulling us out of that rock. That's the sparing. He spared us by pulling out of that rock. Just like the engineers knew where to find those veins of gold, so does the Most High. The Most High knows exactly where and how to find us and how to drill and blast for us so that we can correct ourselves, come out of that rock. Play on.
Those veins of gold are, thanks to the mining company's geologists who've studied the ore samples. The company collects these samples by drilling deep into the rock at 15-metre intervals. These diamond drill cores, as they're called, are up to 100 metres long and measure 3.5 centimetres in diameter. Gold in its natural state isn't pure. It's usually intertwined with silver or other metals. So the mined ore has to be processed afterward to isolate.
It said gold in its raw form is not pure. Guess what? Neither were we. In our regular form, how we was not pure. No matter how good of a person we think we were. Oh, I just want to be the nice person, treat everybody right, and I'm good. No, you were still unpure. Why? Because you were not guided by the laws of God. Watch this. Go to 1 Corinthians 2:14. 1 Corinthians 2:14. It said, gold in its natural state is not pure. Let's see about us. Are we pure in our natural state? Read.
The book of 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 14. But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him.
The natural man does not perceive the things of the Spirit of God. They're foolishness. That's why a lot of people, what's that y'all wearing on y'all clothes? Y'all don't do what? You don't celebrate Christmas. Why not? That's the birth of Jesus. You don't celebrate Thanksgiving. Oh man, y'all looking too deep into that stuff. You don't smoke. Man, everybody smoke. You don't do this, you don't do that. Oh, so you don't go to the club. Oh, so you don't got a sneaky link. Oh, so you don't be doing this, you don't be doing that. So you really live what that Bible say. These are all of the things that we hear. Why? Because that's the natural man. The natural man is willing to accept sin the way it is. Because that's a natural man. Read it again.
But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God, for they are foolishness unto him.
Read.
Neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned.
You have to have the spirit of discernment to understand the words of God. You can't discern them things naturally. That's why a lot of sisters, when y'all say, God ain't going to kill me for wearing pants, that's a natural man. That's a natural man inside of you. Not knowing that the spirit of discernment would say, if I'm wearing pants, that puts a masculine spirit on me, and I can't be mannish going into the kingdom of heaven. I can't be mannish going into this truth. I have to be feminine. I have to be womanly. The Bible says for a woman not to wear pants. I got to listen to what the Bible says, not my own natural opinion. Give me Titus 3:3. Our natural opinion got us into the position that we are in now. That's where our natural opinion got us. It is not profitable. Let's see how us naturally, let's see how we were. Read.
The book of Titus, chapter 3, verse 3. For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish.
We were sometimes foolish. We were sometimes that natural man. Read.
Disobedient. Deceived. Serving diverse lusts and pleasures.
Serving diverse lusts and pleasures. We did the same exact things. Read.
Living in malice and envy. Hateful and hating one another.
That's the natural man. Galatians 5 talks about the works of the flesh. That's the natural man. That's what gold is in its natural form. It's not pure. Give me Psalms 19:8. We're going to show you what pure is. Because it's not an opinion of mine. It's not an opinion of Officer Zadiah that we were unpure. That unless you follow in these law, statutes, and commandments, you're unpure. Your natural, regular opinion means nothing. Read.
The book of Psalms, chapter 19, verse 8. The statutes of the Lord are right, rejoicing the heart.
Read.
The commandment of the Lord is pure, enlightening the eyes.
The commandments are pure. In your raw form, you're not pure. Why? Because you're not following the commandments in your raw form. When you come here and you get drilled and blasted and pressed, all without breaking, you start to understand why you have to change, why you was pulled out of this world, why you was chosen to be here. This is what you have to understand.
What club was that at?
That was admit that a lot of people don't even realize they.
I've called her. She hasn't responded. I've called her more than a few times.
With the Zulu Nation, I'm like, what the hell is this? I know nobody know what I'm talking about. You'll leave me on the island by myself. I don't know what the hell Bishop's talking about. That's what y'all do. Then after class, yeah, I knew what you were talking about. I just didn't want to be caught out there. The hell is this? Get on my damn nerves. So read that again, 31.
Play on in the video.
The metals. So the mined ore has to be processed afterward to isolate and extract the gold. A metric ton of ore yields only about 6.5 grams of gold.
Stop. It said a metric ton of ore yields about 6 ounces of gold. That's what it said, right? 6 ounces? 6 grams. 6 grams of gold. That's not a lot. A metric ton of that stuff only creates 6 grams of gold? Give me Matthew 24:14. No, 22:14, my bad. 22:14. Look at what the scripture said. It said a metric ton of ore creates 6 grams of gold. Read.
The book of St. Matthew, chapter 22, verse 14. For many are called, but few are chosen.
Many are called. So a whole lot of people going to know about Israel. A whole lot of people going to know that they are Israel. But that chosen is going to be the ones that actually endure to the end. That chosen is going to be the ones that take themselves to be gold. Many are called, few are chosen. That was a lot of ore. And only 6 grams of gold came out of that. A metric ton. And only 6 grams of gold came out of that. Man. Go to Sirach 2:1. Read.
The book of Sirach, chapter 2, verse 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation.
That's why when we start to serve God, we have to prepare ourselves. We were taken out of the world, and now we got to go through a process. He said, orb is taken out of the rock, the gold that's intertwined with the silvers and the coppers and all of those other metals. That gold got to be separated from all of that stuff. That's why a metric ton only yields 6 grams, because that gold got to separate from them other metals. Same thing with us. When we come to serve the Lord, you better prepare for temptation. Prepare for the drilling and the blasting. Prepare to get separated from everything else. Play on.
Yields only about 6.5 grams of gold. After blasting the rock apart with explosives, miners use what's called a muck machine to transfer the ore to cars headed to the main shaft and then above ground to the mill. There, a crusher reduces the large chunks into smaller rocks the size of gravel.
Stop.
A mill.
So those rocks are put onto a cart, and it's drilled and it's broken down even further. Read Sirach 2:2 now.
The book of Sirach, chapter 2, verse 2.
So when we come into this truth, when we come to serve the Lord, we got to experience the tribulation. We got to experience the temptation. We have to be broken down. That happens to a lot of us. With your mind, what you think, you got to be broken down to gravel. Read.
Set thy heart aright and constantly endure, and make not haste in the time of trouble.
Because when you're getting broken down, you're going to want to leave. When you're getting broken down, you're going to want to not come around no more. When you get broken down, you're going to start getting in your feelings. You're going to start taking back stuff that you once gave to the body. You're going to start getting in your feelings about what this person is doing and what that person is doing. You're going to start getting in your feelings about who's doing what, who's saying what. That's not your business. You're going to start getting into your feelings about a whole bunch of stuff, but you're supposed to constantly endure. Because you're going to get broken down, because you gold tried in the fire. And we ain't even got to the fire yet. We just got to the gold getting out of the earth and going to the fire. Play on.
Reduces the large chunks into smaller rocks the size of gravel. A mill then pulverizes them to the texture of beach sand. The factory adds a water and cyanide solution. Then another mill grinds it further into a mud-like pulp. This pulp flows into large settling tanks. The wet solids, being heavier, sink to the bottom.
Stop.
The water at the top.
So that rock is pounded into gravel. Then that gravel is pounded into something that's as fine as beach sand. And then it got to go into the water. It got to get washed up. That's why it looked like mud. And then it goes into big settling tanks. Read Ephesians 5:26. Ephesians 5:26. What's the water that we have to be cleaned up with once we broken down? Once we broken down to the point to where we can't buck up no more, to the point to where we can't do nothing but listen, then what happens? Read.
Ephesians chapter 5, verse 26. That he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word.
So by the word, that's how we washed. When we broken down, when we come into this truth and we pulled out of this world and we start to go through things and we getting broke down, guess what? That water is right there to clean you up. It have to be. That's the process. That's the process. Play on.
Tanks. The wet solids, being heavier, sink to the bottom. The water at the top drains to another area. Workers transfer the wet solids to an agitation tank and blow in air. The oxygen sets off a chemical reaction between the cyanide and the gold trapped in the ore, triggering the gold to dissolve and leach into the surrounding water. Drum filters then separate the water from the solids. This water now joins the water that was separated earlier. Zinc powder is added to solidify the dissolved gold. To smelt into bars, a chemical cocktail needs to be prepared. Manganese dioxide, fluoride, silica flour, borax, and sodium nitrate. This mix, called flux, will separate the gold from the impurities.
Stop. So, now that the gold has been pulverized, now that it's going through all of these different processes, now that it's been separated from what it don't need and it's been put over here to what it does need, now certain things have to be added to it. Certain things have to be added to it. What is that? That's your experiences. Give me Romans 5 and verse 3.
Yes, sir. The book of Romans, chapter 5, verse 3. And not only so, but we glory in tribulations also.
We glory in tribulations. Why? Because as that gold, this is what tribulations do. Read.
Knowing that tribulation worketh patience.
So out of all of those different chemical cocktails that they called it flux, guess what? Now you got to go through tribulation, because the tribulation is going to add to you patience. Read.
And patience experience.
And it's going to also add to you experience. Read.
And experience hope.
And that experience is going to add to you hope. Read.
And hope maketh not ashamed.
And that hope is going to bring an unshaming. You want to know why? Because we're not supposed to be ashamed of anything. A lot of times we come into this truth and brothers and sisters become ashamed. You know, they don't want to go around certain people. Oh, they talk about me. Excuse me. They talk about me. They say things about me. They say this, they say that. They ask me questions. Why you wear your hair like that? Why you got a hair wrap on? What is the Sabbath? Oh, so you don't watch this no more? Or you don't come around no more? A lot of times we become ashamed. But give me Sirach 42 and 1. Let me show you what the scriptures say about being ashamed. Because it said, hope maketh not ashamed. But the tribulation got to bring the patience and the experience and the hope. Without it, you're not going to become that gold. Read.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 42, verse 1. Of these things be not thou ashamed.
Read.
And accept no person to sin thereby.
When it says accept no person to sin thereby, I mean it don't let nobody break the laws of God around you. It don't matter who you are. Hey, bro, won't you come on over here by us? All right, I'll come over for a little while. I'm going to observe the time, though. As soon as y'all do something that goes against these scriptures, I'm gone. You want to come over and we could talk? We could talk. I'm going to be bringing scriptures out. I ain't going to shove it down your throat, but you better believe my conversation ain't going to be like yours. Don't be ashamed of that. Read on.
Of the law of the Most High and his covenant, and of judgment to justify the ungodly.
Don't be ashamed of judgment. Don't be ashamed of the law of the Most High. Those things don't be ashamed of. All of that is to be added to you through experience. Go to Sirach 4 and 17. All of these things have to be added to you. Like the scriptures say, a wise man will hear a word and add unto it. All of these things have to be added to you. How you going to know to add to the word if you don't know the word? So you have to search these things out. You have to go through tribulation. And guess what? Everything that you've gone through before is going to be that tribulation, to be that experience. Read.
The book of Sirach, chapter 4, verse 17. For at the first she will walk with him by crooked ways.
Who's the she? Wisdom. Wisdom will walk with us by crooked ways. You want to know why? Because we may have a little bit of understanding as soon as we come into the truth. But we still got weed smoking that we battle with, cigarette smoking we battle with, whoremongering that we battle with, fornication we battle with, addictions that we battle with. But wisdom is still going to grow within you. Read on.
And bring fear and dread upon him.
Then that fear and that dread is going to bring about upon you. What is that? Tribulation. That's you getting broken down. That's you getting cleaned up with that water. That's that fear and that dread. Because the fear is supposed to be of the Lord. Matter of fact, hold that. Give me Psalms 111 and 10. It said, wisdom is going to walk with you by crooked ways. Then she's going to bring fear and dread upon you. If wisdom is truly walking with you, fear is going to be right there behind her. Read.
The book of Psalms, chapter 111, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Guess what? If wisdom is walking with you, fear is always going to be there. It just said wisdom going to walk with you by crooked ways, but the fear of the Lord is going to be right there. That's the very beginning of it. Walking with you by crooked ways, that's the beginning of it. That's the beginning of the gold. Read.
A good understanding have all they that do his commandments.
A good understanding have all they that do the commandments, that start to become pure, because the commandments are pure. In order for you to be pure, you got to be doing the commandments. Go back to Sirach. Read it again.
The book of Sirach, chapter 4, verse 17. For at the first she will walk with him by crooked ways, and bring fear and dread upon him, and torment him with her discipline, until she may trust his soul and try him by her laws.
So guess what? When wisdom starts to walk with you, she may walk with you when you still got a little sin in you. But that fear and that discipline is going to try you. And it's going to bring these experiences. That way, if you overcome your trial, you overcome whatever you was going through, you can help succor another brother. Bro, I know what it's like to be impatient. These are the scriptures that help me. Bro, I know what it's like to go through, you know, the whoremonger stage. But guess what? Bro, there's too many STDs out here. Look what the scriptures say. You can go and you can bring that experience and that hope to somebody else that was brought to you. That's the same way. But that's why we are gold in the fire. So when all of these things are added to you, it's added to you to make you the gold that you're supposed to be. So you get the water, you get cleaned up. Then you get these different things added to you. And then let's see what happens. Play on.
This mix, called flux, will separate the gold from the impurities. It's poured into the smelter, whose temperature is at 1,600 degrees Celsius. The smelter is rotated so that the contents heat evenly. Over 2.5 hours, the heavier gold eventually sinks to the bottom, while the impurities, called slag, float to the surface.
Stop. It said it's heated to 1,600 degrees Celsius. That's over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. 2,000 degrees it has to be heated to. And then it said it got to be rotated. So everything can be heated evenly. Because guess what? You can't just get over your anger spirit, but then you still got jealousy over here. And then you can't get over jealousy, but you still got envy and strife at the bottom. Everything has to be heated evenly. You got to go through a whole lot. Every part of you got to be heated. That's why brothers and sisters be coming into the truth talking, man, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's like everything is coming at me all at once. It's because you're in the fire now. Once you've been broken down, once you've accepted who you are, once you've accepted the laws that you got to follow, Now it's time to go into the fire. See, everything that we've been talking about was before the fire. Now we're just getting into the fire. Gold is tried in the fire. First, you got to get found. Then once you get found, then you got to get broke down. Then you got to go through trial and tribulations and experiences. Then you go through some fire. Then you start to feel the real heat of what's going on, being a gold that God called. He said that it got to be rotated. Play on.
The bottom, while the impurities called slag float to the surface. The slag is poured out. A sample is taken to ensure it contains no gold. If it does, it goes back in until it's gold-free.
Stop. So the slag or the extra gets poured out to make sure that there's no gold in there. If there's gold that's in there, guess what? It goes back into the fire. Same thing with us. I used to say it all the time. If you fail this test, you know you got to take it again, right? If you fail the test, you got to take it again. If you dealt with lust and you keep failing the lust test, you're going to have to take it again. Even when you get over it, you still going to have to take it again. Because guess what? We're not going to be all the way pure, but you're going to be in that fire. So either way, I would suggest that you just go ahead and try to be as pure as you can. Strive to enter in through the straight gate. Strive to be the gold. So even when you come into this truth, you go through your trials, you go through your tribulations, you start to feel the heat, you may have to go in there that thing a couple times, a few times, back and forth. And guess what? That's going to be forever until Christ come back. All of us are going to keep going back and forth to that gold, back and forth to that gold, back and forth, getting that slag off of us, getting those impurities off of us. Play on. Matter of fact, hold on. Go to 2 Timothy 2 and 3. 2 Timothy 2 and 3. Because this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do. Read.
The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 2, verse 3. Thou therefore endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ.
We have to endure hardness as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. Guess what? That enduring hardness is going back and forth from out the fire to back in the fire. You go out the fire, still got a little something in there, toss them back. Come out the fire, I still see a little something, toss them back. That's what we go through as gold. Play on.
It is called slag float to the surface. The slag is poured out. A sample is taken to ensure it contains no gold. If it does, it goes back in until it's gold-free. By now, the gold has cooled slightly, so they reheat to 1,600 degrees Celsius, then cast it into bar-shaped molds.
So, ain't this something? Even when the gold or the slag is gold-free, there's no more slag in the gold, there's no more gold in the slag. Even then, the gold got to be reheated and poured into another vessel. So even when you think that you done got past it, you got to go through some more fire. Because you got to get to somewhere else. You got to get to somewhere else. But you have to know that this is the process if we call ourselves gold tried in the fire. This is the process. Even when you done sunk down to the bottom and all your impurities and gone, you done got over this, you done got over that, you still got to go through a little more fire. Just a little more fire needed to purify you. Play on.
The gold takes about 4 minutes to solidify, then another hour to cool completely in a basin of cold water. The gold bars are extracted from the molds and cleaned of any slag residue. Gold bars are also called ingots. At this stage, the gold is 80% pure. The mint will then refine the gold to 99.9% purity.
Stop. So it said even at that point, when it done got out of the earth, it done been broke down through the process, all of these different things added to it, went through the water, got cleaned off, went through the fire, came back out, went back into the fire, came back out, went back into the fire, made sure it was nice and good, no slag in there, no impurities in there, goes into the fire to get reheated again, gets shapen into what it needs to be shapen into what it needs to be shapen and molded into. Then once it cools down, it's still only 80%. Still only 80%. It ain't pure yet. It has to be sent off to be refined. Give me Zechariah 13:8. It still ain't pure yet. It still has to be sent off to be refined. What is that talking about for us? Even after we've been going through trial after trial, trial after trial, trial after trial, we still not going to be 100%. That's why, hold that. Give me 1 Peter 4:18. 1 Peter 4:18. That's why even after all that we going to go through, after all that we done been through, after all the experiences, after all the wisdom, the discipline, the fear and torment and all of that stuff, we still not going to be 100%. That's why the scripture says this.
1 Peter chapter 4, verse 18. And if the righteous scarcely be saved, where shall the ungodly and the sinner appear?
So if we're going to be 80%, we're going to be scarcely saved. We're going to barely make it through it. Imagine the people that don't make it through it. We're going to be 80%. That's not 100. It's not a just wait. God want 100. But guess what? We have an advocate. Now go to Zechariah 13. We have an advocate that's going to help us out. Read.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, but the third shall be left therein.
So at the end of the day, 2/3 of our people got to go because they're not even going to go through the fire to even be gold. They're not even going to want to reach the 80%. Some people are going to hear it and be like, well, I mean, I ain't going to be all the way right, so I might as well just be all the way wrong. No. You got to do what the Lord said to do. Strive to enter in through that straight gate. Gold is tried in the fire. That's what a lot of Christians don't understand about grace and mercy. The righteous going to scarcely be saved. They're going to barely make it out of here by the skin of their teeth. Go make it out of here. If somebody said, hey, bro, I know you didn't did this work for me, but I'm only give you 80% of your check. You'll be ready to fight. You'll be ready to fight. But us being 80% there, guess what? Christ is going to do something that's going to help us out. Read. So he said 2/3 of our people are going to die, but a third, that's that gold. That's that many are called, few are chosen. That's the ones that were separated from all of this stuff, all the impurities of the world. Once that 1/3 gets taken through, let's see what's going to happen.
Verse 9. And I will bring the third part through the fire.
He's going to bring us through the fire. Read.
And will refine them as silver is refined.
Didn't it say that gold had to be shipped off to be refined to 99.9%? It came out of the fire at 80. Then it had to be sent off to be refined to 99.9%. Christ is going to do that same thing for us. He's going to refine us. Read.
And will try them as gold is tried.
Why would he keep comparing us to gold? Because we got to go through a lot in order to be called gold. We have to be striving to be that gold. We got to go through fire and temptation to be that gold. We got to go through hell and back to be that gold. And even at the 80% that we're going to be when he makes his return, he's still going to refine us. And he's going to try us again. Read.
They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord is my God.
And that's when we're going to be that 99.9%. That's when we're going to be that. But until then, we got to wait on Christ, and we have to strive to keep these commandments. Go to Sirach 2 again. We're going to start up at 1. We're going to read down.
The book of Sirach, chapter 2, verse 1. My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation.
So we got to prepare ourselves for temptation because we are gold. We're taken out of this world. Many temptations are going to come upon you, but guess what? Be solid. Don't move. Don't fold. Read.
Set thy heart aright and constantly endure.
Why you got to constantly endure? Because you're going to constantly be going through the process of being made gold. Constantly having things added to you. Constantly going in and out of the fire. Read.
And make not haste in the time of trouble.
Read.
Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end.
Our last end is when we at that 80%, them bombs drop and we get refined through Christ. When Christ brings us to refine us from 80% to 99.9%. Read.
Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a lower state.
Be patient when you're ground from big rocks into dust. Wonder why you got to be patient? Because just like we saw in the video, when the gold was broken down all the way from the rock, all the way until it was be able to be inside of water and cleaned up, guess what? It was still gold. Just didn't look like it yet. It was at a lower state. And guess what? It still had to go through more in order to be gold. Read on.
For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity.
So now we have an understanding on why he compares us to gold. Why would he say we're gold tried in the fire and acceptable men through the furnace of adversity? Because everything that we go through is to make us gold. If we're going to be more precious than gold, y'all heard what happened with gold. 1,600 degrees Celsius, multiple times. All of these different processes of being drilled and blasted and having things added to it and melted and washed and melted again and melted again. Guess what? All of these things have to happen. It's going to help us become the gold that we're supposed to be. Read.
Believe in him, and he will help thee. Order thy way aright, and trust in him.
This is what we have to do. In all of your trial, your tribulations, trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord. So look, I pray you brothers and sisters were edified from this class. This is why the Most High calls us gold, period. This is why he said gold is tried in the fire and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. This is why. Because we have to go through a lot. Being as precious as we are, being as strong as we are, we have to go through a lot in order to be what God has called us to be. All right? So I pray that y'all were edified. I pray that y'all got something out of this class. And with that, I'm Officer Matthew.
Officer Zadiah.
And we say shalom.
We used to scream black power while heroin was pushed. But at the end of the day, nothing's in vain. IUIC has been given a vision. The tents of Judah has risen. Many has attempted the mission. Minor murmuring, omitting, and missing the mark. Just reading that he had the flame of fire in his eyes gave us the spark. We on Paul's mission. We out on the road, purple and gold. From Mexico, Cuba, Haiti, Ghana, Sierra Leone. 144,000 boots banging, concrete crackling. These are our men repented at heart. The scriptures is proof. IUIC, we deliver the truth.